Good morning, Claire. How are you? Okay. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes if you want to start heading in and finding a seat.
Welcome to the Ethical Society of St. Louis. Platform is about to begin. Please have a seat.
We're going to about to begin in 30 seconds. So any last minute chitter chatter, feel free. That brought me a lot of joy. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Samantha White. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the volunteer host for today. I am grateful we can gather together today in the spirit of shared values, community, and fellowship. Whether you're a longtime member or a first-time visitor, here in person or joining on our live stream, we're glad that you're here. Thank you. We are truly fortunate to be in this space together. So that our time together is not interrupted, please take a moment to silence your devices or put them on airplane mode. I appreciate each of you and your dedication and respect for our speaker, for our performers, and for our community. Okay, let's get started. Our musical guest today is Adam Rogers, playing our beloved organ, although maybe not for the first one, I'm not sure. The first selection will be Inspiration by Hampus Longfist. Adam, thank you so much for coming back to join us today. It's lovely having you here. Each week, we read the Ethical Education for Youth core values as a way to bring us together and remind us of our shared commitments. During the school year, we have one of our young people read them, but since the program is on hiatus for the summer, I will be the core values reader today. The core values are: every person is important and unique. Every person deserves to be treated fairly and kindly. I can learn from everyone. I am a part of this earth. I cherish it and all of the life upon it. I learn from the world around me by using my senses, minds, and feelings. I am a member of the world community, which depends on the cooperation of all people for peace and justice. I can learn from the past to build for the future. I am free to question. I am free to choose what I believe. I accept responsibility for my choices and actions. I strive to live my values. Thank you. It is now time for opening words, when we get to learn more about our fellow members and their interests and passions. This is a time to deepen our connections with one another. Today, we invite Mary Ann Perkins, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, to speak with us.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Ann, my pronoun is she, and I'm the newest member of the Ethical Society Board of Trustees. This morning, I'd like to speak for a few minutes on behalf of the board. Last year, the board created a task force to conduct a search for a new leader of our community. The task force was co-chaired by Carol and Dawn Beer, with members David Brown, Lindsay Nissenbaum, Brian Vandenberg, Katie Borders, and Cy Henningsen. These dedicated, experienced, and conscientious members of the society set out to fulfill the charge of finding a leader candidate to propose to the board. To deepen their understanding of our needs as a community and to refine the search criteria, the task force held many listening sessions in the fall of 2023. Community priorities were voiced in these sessions, and the vacancy announcement for the role of leader was finalized. The task force made every effort to widely publish and circulate the vacancy through relevant channels. This included listing the announcement on 31 websites, circulating it to 21 American Ethical Union societies, reaching out to 14 divinity schools, including UU Theological Schools and Eden Seminary in Webster Groves, and corresponding with 18 individuals by email, including faculty at the divinity schools. In response, a few applications were received, and of those, only one stood out as a strong fit for the role. The task force unanimously and enthusiastically recommended this candidate to the board in May 2024. After further evaluation, the board extended an invitation for the candidate to come to St. Louis to meet the membership and give a platform address. This would enable the membership to vote on the candidate, to either approve the appointment or reject it. But the candidate declined to proceed for reasons that I think we can probably empathize with. It is not easy to uproot your family and move to a city where you would be starting over in a state where political leaders openly embrace white evangelical Christian nationalism. I imagine these factors work against us. And we are, frankly, atypical. We are a non-theistic, humanist congregation. Our needs and expectations are anything but ordinary. And our need for leadership comes at a time when we are facing a crisis in the AEU and its leadership training program, a crisis that incidentally coincides with a broader shortage of clergy and ministerial leaders. Pulpits are empty, and the shortage of ministers is affecting congregations around the country. So while we are special, we are hardly unique in our struggle to recruit a new leader. We must integrate this reality into our expectations as we look to the future. At this time, the board is considering the best next steps that we can take. Building on the lessons learned from the experience of the Leader Search Task Force, we know that recruiting a leader will take longer than we had originally anticipated. Meanwhile, significant changes will take place here in the near term. Our interim leader's contract with us will end in December, and in the first quarter of 2025, our longtime operations manager, Nancy Jelenek, will retire. Our main focus in the months ahead will be ensuring that the recruitment and onboarding of Nancy's successor is properly supported. We expect that this role will be redefined to reflect some of the changes in our circumstances. We can, therefore, reasonably expect that we will be without a leader as we begin the new year. We don't know exactly what this will look like, but we know that we will have to pull together. In times when we are without a leader, powers will be delegated to trustees or congregation members as needed so that we can carry on as a community. Ahead of us, there is uncharted territory. We ask for your patience and kindness as we head toward that horizon. Let us, with a leader or without one, uphold our commitment as members to sustain and grow the society. We are in this together, and we'll take this one day at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. If you are a member and would like to share opening words, we will happily get you on the schedule. You can contact our interim director, Amy Miller, or send an email to the platform speakers team. The team takes turns recruiting each month, so you may also be asked to give opening words. I hope you will take advantage of the opportunity to share about yourselves with our community. Let's welcome Adam back to the organ this time for Organ Prelude on the Traditional Irish Air by Ethel Smith. Oh, thank you so much. I love to hear the organ. Before our main address, we like to take a moment to empty our minds, relax our bodies, and take some mindful, deep breaths. Please join me for 1 minute of mindful breathing. Thank you. It's August, which means it's Members Speak Month. And we get to hear even more from our amazingly talented members. Our speaker today holds a master's degree in counseling psychology with an emphasis in human sexuality. She worked for 30 years at Hope Clinic, an independent abortion clinic in Southern Illinois, and ran a statewide organization that trained adults to be better sexuality educators. When she retired, she helped found the Missouri Abortion Fund and continues to serve on their board. She has been a member of the Ethical Society of St. Louis for over 40 years. Please welcome our very own Allison Hile.
Morning, y'all. It's Allison talking about abortion again. And I'm just thrilled to have somebody play an organ right before I talk about sex. I am a founding member of the Missouri Abortion Fund, but I'm not speaking for the fund today. I'm speaking for myself, and I will talk about a variety of different organizations. I'm going to tell you how we got into this mess, what's happening on the ground now, and a couple of things planned for the future. Okay, let's go back and be really clear about what Roe versus Wade was. The Supreme Court compromised between people who wanted abortion legal throughout pregnancy and people who wanted absolutely no abortion. Their compromise was abortion could be legal, but states could put limitations on it. In the first trimester, or first 3 months of pregnancy, abortion was a decision between the pregnant person and their physician. In the second trimester, states could put limits on abortion with regard to the health of the pregnant person. And in the third trimester, states could outlaw abortion, which Missouri did. I've included this pie graph just to represent how many of the procedures done are actually done in the first trimester of pregnancy. That's that first 13 weeks, first 12 weeks. Okay, how do we get here? In '73, Roe was handed down and independent clinics sprung up across the country. Planned Parenthood was a little slower to follow. Well, with Roe in place, Missouri slowly passed the following laws, which are still in effect. In 1974, Missouri banned abortion after viability. They banned non-physicians, meaning nurse practitioners, doing abortions. And they required that a physician have hospital privileges within 30 miles of the abortion clinic. In '75, health center licensure for abortion was required, as were reporting requirements. In 1979, mandatory parental involvement for minors was required. In 1983, Missouri banned, get this, in 1983, Missouri banned the use of private insurance for abortion. Didn't matter if your insurance policy covered it, you couldn't use it in Missouri. In 1989, Missouri banned Medicaid coverage for abortion. And they also banned public funding for services that even referred for abortion. Now remember, there are over 100 health departments across the state of Missouri. In 1999, Missouri banned a common type of second trimester procedure. And in 2003, Missouri mandated that an anti-abortion booklet be read to anybody receiving an abortion. A physician also had to evaluate that person for physical or psychological risks. Now, this booklet contained things like the state believes that life begins at conception, there were claims of fetal pain, and they wanted to make sure everybody got the offer to watch an ultrasound. In 2003, Missouri also required a 24-hour mandatory delay between the time the booklet was read and the abortion was performed. In 2005, Missouri banned assisting minors with a judicial bypass, rides, loans. Civil liability on friends, family members, teachers, clergy, etc. was enacted. In 2007, Missouri banned sex educators in schools from any agency that even referred for an abortion. Now, that knocked me out of speaking in Missouri public schools because I worked at Hope Clinic for Women, which provided abortions, but it also knocked out every nurse at every health department across the state. In 2007, the state of Missouri gave $2 million to crisis pregnancy centers. Those are fake clinics pretending to be an abortion clinic that talk people out of having an abortion. In 2010, Missouri passed, I'm so busy reading, you're not getting it, you're not able to. In 2010, Missouri passed fetal anesthesia requirement with no evidence for fetal pain pre-viability. In 2013, Missouri banned the use of telemedicine for abortion, and that's because the FDA had approved mifepristone and methotrexate as the abortion pill. 2017, Missouri allowed employers to ban or to deny birth control coverage in their health plans, and they required 2 visits with the same physician, reading the booklet and then performing the abortion. They also gave $4.2 million out of TANF funds to religious-based anti-abortion counseling centers. TANF funds are for temporary assistance for needy families. So the Missouri legislature took money away from needy families and gave it to fake clinics talking people out of abortion. In 2018, tax credits were given to the fake anti-abortion counseling centers. In 2019, a 72-hour mandatory delay, the longest in the country, was put in place in Missouri, meaning the same physician had to read that anti-abortion booklet 72 hours before the abortion could be performed. That's a lot of travel for people. Missouri also enacted a trigger ban, and a trigger ban is something that would make abortion illegal the moment Roe fell. You think they weren't watching who was coming on the Supreme Court when they did that? They were watching closely because in 2019, they went ahead and passed an unconstitutional abortion ban in Missouri. And those exceptions were so vague that no abortions were being performed in Missouri. And I'm talking even about BJC. This list does not include the Supreme Court June 24th, 2022 Dobbs decision. The Dobbs decision left abortion laws up to the states. 10 minutes after the Dobbs decision was handed down, Missouri was the first state to use its trigger law to completely ban the provision of abortion care. In Missouri, it is now a felony punishable by 5 to 15 years in prison to perform or induce an abortion, and that includes handing somebody the abortion pill. Remember that. Doctors could lose their licenses. Again, the exceptions are so limited, no physician is willing to test them. The law does say that women who undergo a procedure cannot be prosecuted. I want to do just a little bit of then and now here for you. Let's go back. In the early 80s, when I was working at Hope Clinic, I visited all the abortion providers anywhere near St. Louis. There were 5 abortion providers in St. Louis, and none of them were Planned Parenthood. An independent clinic, Reproductive Health Services, provided the first legal abortion in Missouri. They were on the 2nd floor of the doctor's building, which was at the corner of West Pine and Euclid. Right now, there's a Whole Foods in that spot. So when you're ever giving a tour of St. Louis, you can point to Whole Foods and say that's where the first legal abortion was performed. Another independent clinic, Hope Clinic, was still across the river in Illinois. There was also Women's Care on McKelvey, the Ladies Center on Delmar, and Dr. Escobedo on Manchester. Outside of St. Louis, there was Comprehensive Health Services in Kansas City, National Health Care in Peoria, Dr. Troupin in Champaign, Dr. Ragsdale in Rockford, and a GP who did procedures along with his regular family practice in Carthage, Illinois, which is probably how it ought to be done anyway. And then there were a handful of clinics in Chicagoland, 2 of which at that time still had mafia ties left over from the time that abortion was illegal. I visited both of those clinics. That's a story for another day. Currently, there are 0 abortion providers in Missouri. Hope Clinic is still in Granite City, and because Missouri laws changed, Planned Parenthood built a wonderful new clinic in Fairview Heights, Illinois. After Dobbs, after Roe fell, the Aegis Clinic opened in Highland, Illinois, and 3 new clinics opened in Carbondale. And that was to help handle the fact that no southern states still have legal abortion. Most of the Planned Parenthoods in Illinois still offer the abortion pill for early terminations, and late procedures for medical reasons require travel at least as far away as Maryland or Colorado. Now you can see the red dots representing Maryland and Colorado. That's how far people have to go if they have an emergency medical situation in the 3rd trimester. The brown dots represent where 2nd trimester abortions can be provided, and the blue dots represent 1st trimester providers. 36 states require parental notification or consent, and Illinois is not one of them. Take a look at that map. Look at all those orange states. Those orange states are where abortion is illegal or very restricted. Look at Illinois, it's a blue state. The blue states have legal abortion, and the dark blue states provide extra protection. With this in place, the U.S. Supreme Court on June 27th of this year, handed down the EMTALA Act, or the EMTALA case, which is about the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act. This was concerning abortion care and medical emergencies in Idaho. Under EMTALA, everyone is guaranteed treatment for emergency medical conditions, including stabilizing emergency abortion care. But anti-abortion extremists in Idaho and across the country sought to exclude pregnant people from EMTALA, and they put providers in impossible situations, choosing between life-saving care and risking legal punishment. Let's be clear. The decision from the Supreme Court did not rule on the content of the case. It merely dismissed it, pushing it back to the lower courts. While abortion care in emergency medical situations in Idaho is allowed for now, this ruling does not explicitly protect providers or patients. In her dissent, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said, "Today's decision is not a victory for pregnant patients in Idaho. It is a delay. And while this court dawdles and the country waits, pregnant people experiencing emergency medical conditions remain in a precarious position as their doctors are kept in the law kept in the dark about what the law requires. Let this slide sink in for a minute. Though it's possible you can only read the top left corner of it. There is a post-Roe care crisis in the United States, and that includes the OBGYN exodus out of anti-abortion states, because doctors are legally prohibited from giving their patients adequate or even life-saving care. As the crisis worsens, doctors across the country are warning that the system will collapse, especially when it comes to maternity care in rural areas. Residents are not applying, medical residents are not applying to programs in banned states. Almost half the counties currently in Missouri are maternity care deserts. Missouri has the 7th highest maternal mortality rate in the nation. And don't get impressed about the nation, because the United States has the worst rate of maternal mortality in the industrialized world. It wasn't me. And now in 2023, Missouri allocated $8.3 million for their shiny new Alternatives to Abortion program. Taxpayer dollars are funding not only anti-abortion clinics, but media ads designed to deceive abortion seekers. In June, a federal court was asked to block a Tennessee measure, and that measure was criminalizing young people, helping young people access legal care in another state. Without emergency relief, this measure threatens to punish someone who helps a young Tennessean obtain care out of state. They're called a helper. And unless the helper secures written, notarized consent from the young person's parent or legal guardian for each form of support they give, a loan, a ride, information, they can be prosecuted. The measure is so unclear that helpers cannot determine if their support actually violates the measure, and prosecutors have unbridled ability to target anyone whom they disfavor. Remember, anti-choice lawmakers have a database that they share across the country with anti-abortion laws. So what happens in one state is very likely to happen in another state. Well, there's another positive case we should be watching, and that is Reverend Tracy Blackman versus Missouri. Thank you. 14 tax-paying Missouri clergy members, Christian, Jewish, and Unitarian Universalists, used separation of church and state to sue Missouri for their abortion ban. Recently, a St. Louis circuit judge said Republican lawmakers who banned abortion were not trying to impose their religious beliefs. So, on July 3rd of this year, this clergy group decided to take their fight over separation of church and state to the Missouri Supreme Court. You may have been in the audience here when Reverend Blackman spoke. You may have attended the session in the Becker Room put on by Citizens United for Separation of Church and State. And I bet a lot of you were here when Denise Lieberman spoke here at this platform. She's the attorney on their case. Okay, now that all this has happened, how on earth are pregnant people coping with this right now on the ground? Well, they have to travel to other states. And that's not a huge deal if you're going from St. Louis to Illinois. But if you live in the middle of Missouri, you've got a long way to go. Some people are getting abortion pills by mail. Now, abortion pills are not to be confused with emergency contraception. Emergency contraception only works for a few days after sex. Abortion pills actually cause an abortion. The emergency contraception we have in the restrooms free here at the Ethical Society. Abortion pills are very safe. They induce a miscarriage, but they're not legal in many states, including Missouri. They can be purchased at a number of websites. One I'll share with you is buzzhealth.com. Oh, that's on the slide. Pills can be ordered anytime to have, just in case of an unintended pregnancy. They work up to 13 weeks from the first day of the last menstrual period, and they cost about $150. You do remember I said it's punishable by 5 to 15 years in prison to hand one of these pills to somebody who's pregnant in Missouri. Another group that has been a huge help across the country is the National Network of Abortion Funds, of which the Missouri Abortion Fund is a part. In 2022, before Dobbs, NANAF's members, meaning the National Network's members, member funds supported 74% of the people in need. Right after Dobbs, donations and support temporarily went way up, and since then, Dobbs has multiplied the barriers, and the number of people needing financial help has risen dramatically. More people need help, but now fewer of them receive it. Costs to obtain abortion care have increased dramatically. Think time off work, hotels, transportation, childcare. Remember, the majority of people who have an abortion already have a child at home. The Midwest Access Coalition helps with transportation. It pays for flights, gas, hotels, toiletries, etc. The Chicago Abortion Fund has been around for decades, and it's smaller than Missouri Abortion Fund, but it helps Midwesterners, so they're spread pretty thinly right now. I want to talk briefly about the Resources for Abortion Delivery, or RAD. Now, very sadly, that ends next month. But RAD has included millions and millions of dollars from an anonymous donor for abortion care for anyone less than 12 weeks in a pregnancy from a banned state going to an independent or non-Planned Parenthood clinic. Its end will impact indie clinics drastically. And remember, there are more indie clinics performing abortions in this country than there are Planned Parenthoods. Need is always greater than funding, and loss of RAD creates a tremendous pull for other abortion funds to fill the gap. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Missouri Abortion Fund. You know, the farther you drink, the farther down that water goes. The Missouri Abortion Fund partners with more than 12 clinics nationwide to fund abortions for Missourians and gives more than $100,000 every single month. In the last year, we provided funding for over 3,000 individuals with over $1 million. And that includes $10,000 for patients with fetal anomalies who had to travel way outside the Midwest. Since 2022, we have provided almost $2 million for abortion care, helping almost 6,000 abortion patients. Contributions to funds, including MOAF, were high with the news of Roe falling, but they have slowed, and we were unable to help about a third of the people who needed financial help now. People needed help when we started this in 2015, and since then that need has skyrocketed. We're also finding that many people in rural areas don't know they can still leave the state of Missouri legally to receive abortion care. So, Missouri Abortion Fund partnered with a group called Right By You to let people know. You may have seen in one of the many news articles about our two groups handing out free emergency contraception at an Olivia Rodrigo concert. If you don't know who Olivia Rodrigo is, you may be out of the age bracket that would need to worry about emergency contraception. Our two groups wrote and received educational outreach grants for a joint public education campaign called Abortion Help Mo. It was then that we found out that billboard companies in outstate Missouri would not accept our ads. Some of them said, oh, churches own the land that our billboards are on. We can't do that. We also found out that no outstate radio stations would accept our ad. So, over the 4th of July weekend, we rented this truck and had it driven around Lake of the Ozarks, reaching over 1 million people. The driver said he got a lot of positive responses, too. This is the Abortion Help Mo website. One of the things you might notice on here is the quick exit button at the top right. So if you're at work and you're looking up information on how to get an abortion because you live in Missouri, this quick exit button will take you immediately back to your desktop. The website also answers questions like, is it legal to leave Missouri for an abortion? Or I think I found a clinic in Missouri that says they can do my abortion. Is that a crisis pregnancy center? There's good news on the horizon. I know I've been doom and gloom here. There are 2 ballot initiatives on track for the November Missouri ballot, and I encourage you to support both of them. One increases minimum wage and paid sick days, and one enshrines Roe into the Missouri Constitution. Missourians for Constitutional Freedom is the coalition leading the Missouri ballot initiative to enshrine Roe in the Missouri Constitution. And with the help of many of you, they have done a great job. Missourians for Constitutional Freedom turned in double the number of required signatures by the May deadline from every county. To qualify for the ballot, campaigns must get signatures from a certain percentage of registered voters in 6 out of 8 Missouri's congressional districts. The campaign's strongest showing was in St. Louis City and part of St. Louis County, that's District 1. According to data from election officials, the Secretary of State's office has thrown out 25,000 signatures as invalid. But fortunately, there were more than 53,000 signatures deemed valid, and they only needed 25,600. The deadline for the state to officially certify this for the ballot is August 13th, but it could happen any day. Missourians for Constitutional Freedom is gearing up for the competitive race ahead. More staff has been added, polling is underway, TV shoots are scheduled, and the primary goal is building awareness of what Missouri's abortion ban actually says. Because polling shows that 4 in 10 voters don't know that abortion is illegal, and 6 in 10 don't know that that includes cases of rape and incest. When voters learn what the amendment actually said, they're on our side. But voter education is key, so in September, they'll start sending out mailings, TV ads, and digital ads. The campaign needs to raise $5 million more from within Missouri to prove to national funders that this race is worth investing in. Now, if this ban in Missouri is not overturned, we cannot start litigating all those draconian laws I listed earlier. Remember, Roe did not disappear overnight. It took 50 years, one law at a time, to get here. When the ban is overturned, we will need millions more to litigate overturning all these laws. Unless there's a miraculous blue wave that hits the Missouri legislature. What else does the future hold? Here's another group I want you to know about. Abortion Justice Now. It's a new group and it's national. Please remember that in 1973, Roe v. Wade was a compromise. It legalized abortion care, but allowed states to put restrictions on it. The national GOP has currently invoked the 14th Amendment in their abortion policy platform, which would prevent all abortions. The 14th Amendment is the one that says nobody can be deprived of life by the state without due process. Well, since then, Abortion Justice Now has had 80 organizations across the country and hundreds of individuals and independent abortion providers sign on. Planned Parenthood has not yet, and that may be because, to my knowledge, none of their affiliates perform any late medically indicated procedures. This new group believes patients deserve more than 24 weeks with restrictions. They are reaching federal abortion policymakers, lobbyists, influencers, and advocates to seize a first-in-our-lifetime moment the opportunity to think beyond beyond restoring Roe and establish an expansive federal right to abortion, free from limitations. The key things that AJN supports are public funding, no parental involvement, and no gestational duration without viability limits. Let's talk about viability for just a minute. What is it? Is it when the fetus can survive after birth? Is it when it can survive days or weeks after birth? Years? When it can survive like a typical child without brain damage? Is that at 24 weeks from the first day of the last menstrual period? Or is that determined by the size of the fetus by ultrasound? And which ultrasound scale should be used? Because there are a lot of them. So far, there is no absolute medical definition of viability. So are some of you, like many people, a little uncomfortable with the idea of abortions taking place throughout pregnancy? First, you should know it can cost over $10,000, and there are very few providers across the country that do them. Oregon Health and Science University goes to 34 weeks for medical reasons, and that's the farthest that I know of. Matthew and I were told at 34 weeks in a very wanted pregnancy that something was terribly wrong for the fetus, and we can personally tell you what being denied an abortion is like. After a C-section, because Amelia's hips were deformed and would not pass through the birth canal, she spent 31 days in the neonatal intensive care unit, unable to move, cry, or swallow. Matthew and I removed life support. If you think a late abortion is hard, think about what we were forced to do because BJC wasn't allowed to perform an abortion. Those 31 days cost roughly $31,000 in 1986. Today's equivalent is $89,000, and neither figure includes the cost of labor or delivery. So to move from a personal story to a study, I want to let you know that Johns Hopkins University's Bloomberg School of Public Health has published data that shows a huge increase in infant mortality in Texas after the Texas law changed. The biggest jump researchers found was a 23% increase in infant deaths due to congenital abnormalities, a spike caused by the Texas mandating that doomed pregnancies be carried to term. And while anti-abortion organizations and activists know that this is extraordinarily unpopular and cruel, they're still pushing it. Don't be alarmed about all the money I've just talked about. There's a lot of it that's needed, but don't just get panicky and overwhelmed and freeze. As I like to say, pick one organization, one of the ones I've talked about, and give what you can. The anti-choice movement took 50 years plotting and planning to get the country where we are today. We must fight just like those before us have fought, not knowing how long it will take. I know we all want immediate gratification, believe me, so do I. But no one in the middle of any war or any struggle has ever known how long it was going to take. Those of you who follow Heather Cox Richardson may have read in her column what E.B. White famously wrote to a man who said he had lost his humanity. He wrote, "Hang on to your hat, hang on to your hope, and wind the clock, for tomorrow is another day." And if you have any questions, you can ask them to my face downstairs after platform.
Thank you so much, Allison. The respect and the care that you demonstrate for people is unparalleled. We are lucky to have you here. The Welcome team will now take up a collection to support this society. We rely on the generosity of members and friends, so please consider donating. If you don't have cash with you today, you can donate at ethicalsdl.org/donate or use the QR code on the screen. We appreciate anything you may be able to offer. If you are interested in joining the Ethical Society, or you are a visitor and would like to know more, please visit the Visitors Connect table. Members will be downstairs to answer questions. Next Sunday, on August 11th, immediately after platform, we are hoping that you can take a few minutes to enjoy both the complimentary ice cream and the great conversation at the annual ice cream social. So we'll see you next week for lots of sugar. We also, you might notice, have these gorgeous flowers behind us on the stage. They are in honor of Wilma Jameson, whose memorial is this afternoon at 2:30 p.m. in the Becker Room. She specifically asked her family to make sure that the flowers showed up early so that we could all appreciate them, because we haven't had flowers in a while. So thank you, Wilma, and we will miss you. We'd like to keep you informed about future events at the Ethical Society of St. Louis. You may use the QR code on the screen to sign up for the weekly newsletter, check the Friends of the Society Facebook page, or email the relevant staff person or volunteer. This is a busy and vibrant place. We rely on volunteers, and I hope that you get involved and connected in ways that are meaningful for you. Let's welcome Adam one last time to the organ for Vote It Right Along, an original arrangement by Hutchinson.
Vote It Right Along was written for the women's suffrage movement, and I found it and found some resources at the Library of Congress. If you are a musician or you are interested in music, they have recordings, they have sheet music from all parts of American life: civil rights, women's rights, gay rights, unions, all of those things. So I encourage you to check out the wonderful resources there at the Library of Congress. I will not be singing this song, I will just be playing it. You're welcome.
Thank you very, very much. And thank you all for being here today, for each other and for yourselves. I hope today's platform helped you feel more connected to one another and motivated you to get involved in causes that you are passionate about. I invite you to return next week on Sunday to hear from member Rebecca McElprang as she discusses another spectrum, what asexuality can teach us about being human together. And I also invite you to spend more time in community today. There's coffee in the Becker Room, which is downstairs. If you don't know where that is, follow the crowd with the stairs or the elevator. Hope you have a really great rest of your day and an even more fabulous week.